Did you know that in the 1600s, Istanbul's skyline was dominated by more mosques than any other city in the world, with over 3,000 of them piercing the heavens? Let that number sink in for a moment. That's not just an architectural achievement. That's a statement of power, faith, and civilization, unlike anything the world had ever seen. But here's the thing. Despite that staggering number, despite centuries of scholarship, despite countless historians dedicating their careers to this extraordinary city, we have been getting the picture fundamentally wrong. Istanbul in the 1600s was the very heart of the Ottoman Empire, a city of breathtaking beauty and immense power. But what did its skyline really look like back then? For centuries, historians and architects have been painstakingly trying to piece together an accurate picture. And the truth is, we've been missing a crucial piece of the puzzle. A piece so significant that it challenges everything we thought we knew about this magnificent city. And today, we're going to talk about exactly that. To understand why this mystery matters, we first need to appreciate just how extraordinary Istanbul was during this era. This was not simply a city. It was an idea made manifest in stone, mortar, and soaring minarets. Istanbul, or Constantinople, as the Western world once called it, had been a global power for centuries, long before the Ottomans arrived. Its strategic location straddling Europe and Asia made it the beating heart of international trade and cultural exchange. Silk from China, spices from India, gold from Africa, all of it flowed through Istanbul's legendary bazaars. Merchants, diplomats, scholars, and adventurers from every corner of the known world walked its streets. When the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II seized the city in 1453, he didn't just conquer a capital. He inherited a legacy that stretched back over a millennium to the days of the Roman Emperor Constantine himself. And what did the Ottomans do with that inheritance? They transformed it into something even more magnificent. The 17th century was a golden age for Istanbul in every sense of the word. Under the reign of sultans like Murad IV and Mehmed IV, the city flourished as never before. It was a center of Islamic art, architecture, literature, and scientific learning. Its imperial mosques, the Sultanahmet, the Süleymaniye, the Fatih, were engineering masterpieces that drew gasps from even the most seasoned European travelers. The royal architect Mimar Sinan, whose influence lingered long after his death in 1588, had by that point gifted Istanbul with nearly 500 structures, including what many consider to be the finest examples of Ottoman architecture ever built. His successors continued his legacy, raising domes and minarets that seemed to defy gravity itself. The skyline that emerged from this building frenzy was, by all accounts, one of the most dramatic urban panoramas in human history. But here is where it gets interesting. Here is where the history becomes a mystery. Despite the grandeur of the city, despite its obvious importance, there is a surprising and deeply uncomfortable lack of clarity about what Istanbul's skyline actually looked like to someone standing in its streets in the 1620s or 1650s. Why? Because the historical record is riddled with gaps. Fires ravaged large sections of the city repeatedly throughout the 17th century. The Great Fire of 1633 alone destroyed thousands of buildings in a matter of days. Earthquakes shook the foundations of entire neighborhoods, and the relentless passage of time erased what the disasters left behind. What we've been left with are fragments, partial maps, travelers' accounts written in languages that required translation, interpretation, and often a healthy dose of educated guesswork. Illustrations that were frequently exaggerated, idealized, or simply inaccurate, drawn by European artists who had never set foot in the city and were working from second-hand descriptions. Academic debates have raged for decades. Some scholars have argued that Istanbul's skyline was relatively sparse outside of its great imperial complexes, that vast open areas, gardens, and low-lying neighborhoods filled much of the city between its famous landmarks. Others have pushed back fiercely, insisting that Istanbul was a densely packed metropolis, every bit as crowded as London or Paris at the same time. For a long time, no one had the evidence to settle the argument definitively. Until now. Hidden in a dusty archive in a private European collection, overlooked for decades, its significance unrecognized, lay a single watercolor painting. When researchers finally examined it closely, they realized they were looking at something extraordinary. A meticulous, panoramic depiction of Istanbul's skyline as it appeared in the mid-1600s. This was not the work of a casual observer or an imaginative European illustrator. The level of detail, the precise rendering of individual structures, the careful attention to scale and proportion, the accuracy of the topography along the Golden Horn, all pointed to someone with direct, intimate knowledge of the city. Possibly a resident, possibly a court artist. Whoever they were, they left behind something priceless. And what does the painting show? Something that genuinely surprises even seasoned historians. Yes, the great mosques are there, their domes swelling like bronze hills against the sky, their minarets rising in elegant pairs and clusters. The painting confirms the dramatic imperial silhouette that we have always associated with Ottoman Istanbul. But look beyond the mosques, and the picture becomes far more complex and far more human. The painting depicts a skyline dominated not just by grand religious structures, but by a dense, layered tapestry of smaller buildings, homes, workshops, markets, khans, caravanserai, and neighborhood mosques so modest they'd barely register against their towering imperial cousins. The city in the painting is packed. Street after narrow street winds through the hills, crammed with structures that lean toward each other as if sharing secrets. There are no vast open spaces, no idealized gardens of leisure spreading between the monuments. Instead, there is life, messy, crowded, vibrant, unstoppable life. Gone is the notion of a sparse urban landscape, punctuated by occasional architectural masterpieces. What replaces it is something far more compelling, a true metropolis, dense and dynamic, where the grandest mosque in the world might stand just steps away from a humble cobbler's workshop or a noisy street market. The implications of this discovery are profound and far-reaching. First, it forces us to completely rethink Istanbul's urban development during the Ottoman period. If the city was this densely populated and this architecturally complex in the 1600s, it means the Ottomans were managing urban challenges, sanitation, water supply, fire risk, social cohesion, on a scale that rivals any contemporary European capital. That is an achievement that has been consistently underestimated in Western historical accounts. Second, it reshapes how we understand the social fabric of the city. A densely packed Istanbul is a city where people from radically different backgrounds, Muslims, Christians, Jews, merchants, artisans, slaves, scholars, lived in extraordinarily close proximity to one another. This wasn't just coexistence on paper. It was coexistence in practice, day after day, neighbor beside neighbor. That reality has enormous implications for how we interpret Ottoman social history, religious tolerance, and urban culture. Third, and perhaps most excitingly, it raises the question, what else have we gotten wrong? If a single rediscovered painting can overturn decades of scholarly consensus about one of history's most studied cities, what other revelations might be waiting in archives, attics, and forgotten collections around the world? This is what makes the study of history so endlessly compelling. It is not a closed book. It is a living, breathing conversation between the present and the past, and every so often, the past surprises us. Istanbul in the 1600s was a city of staggering complexity, a place where faith, commerce, politics, and daily life collided and intertwined in ways we are only beginning to fully appreciate. For centuries, we thought we understood its skyline. We thought we knew what it looked like to stand on the banks of the Bosphorus and gaze at that extraordinary panorama of domes and minarets. It turns out, we were only seeing part of the picture. The full picture is richer, messier, more human, and far more magnificent than we ever imagined. So what do you think? Does this discovery change how you see Ottoman Istanbul? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're captivated by historical mysteries like this, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.